Well, I want to welcome everybody that's shown up today. Just to give you a little background of the center here, the Center for Inquiry West is an international organization. We have centers all around the world now, and it's primarily to promote skepticism and humanism. And of course, going along with that is the idea of thinking critically. I'm not referring to a specific subject. I'm referring to real-world critical thinking. How do we examine or question things that we have to deal with every day? Now, the Center for Inquiry West here is just one of the centers, and we host a number of other organizations here. Just to outline them, we have we publish the Skeptical Inquirer magazine and the Free Inquirer magazine. They're both available back there in our bookstore. We also host the SOS program, which is our version of, it's not a 12-step program, it's an alternative to the 12-step program called SOS, or some people call it Save Ourselves, or Secular Organizations for Sobriety. Again, that's all over the world now, and it's about, I think it's 25 years old, or 20 years old this year. And it's growing rapidly, and it can be found in a lot of institutions now, especially in light of the court decision out on the East Coast, which recognized the AA program as a religious program. So the courts can no longer force people into these religious programs if there is an alternative available. The building here also hosts a number of others. We have Atheist United, which has an office here. They meet here once a month. We have our IIG group, which is our independent investigations group, where we go out and actually investigate claims. We try to be as objective as we can. The biggest one we've done recently was on psychic detectives, and if you go to our website, there is a link to our IIG website, which will cover a bunch of that material. Free Thought Toastmasters also meets here, and there's another recovery group that deals, I guess, with not just alcohol, but with other types of addiction called Recovery Incorporated. And then we have GALA. It's a gay and lesbian atheist and humanist group. In Orange County, we have our community down there, which had been known for a long time as the Rational Inquirers of Orange County, but we're making a changeover to the Center for Inquiry Community of Orange. So that's going to change. And now we're also looking at starting a Orange County Skeptic organization, which will parallel kind of what's been going on up here with our local skeptic group. We want to go out and actually investigate these claims, and it's amazing how often I've gone out and investigated claims and then find out that what's been published is not at all like what was really stated by these people. I've had the fortunate opportunity to investigate a lot of these things, go out to a lot of these sites. I've been to the Roswell crash site, which is, it's interesting. Nothing like seeing it. I've seen Jesus on the tortilla, but you can't see it now. It's pretty much faded into oblivion. I suspect our cheese sandwich that's sold on the internet will eventually face that same demise. I understand they have it on display here in Hollywood at Ripley's, believe it or not. Well, what can I say? I would venture to say not, as to believe, but what can I say? Now, for those that haven't been here before, again, I'm hoping that you do come back. I'm hoping that everybody here signs up for our newsletter, which comes out 4 times a year, and our email list, which has more regular updates, and they're more likely to be current than this newsletter. We have some upcoming events, of course. The International Festival of Hollywood, which is going to be held right out front of our building here. So it'll be a street festival. We'll be set up there, and the building will be open. I believe we'll have the bookstore open also. Another event coming up at the end of, well, we have a lot of events in March. Paul Kurtz, the founder of the organization, will be here in March giving a 2-part lecture on humanism and what it is, what it isn't, and I guess its place in the world community. In April, the end of March and the first 2 days of April, we'll be participating in the Orange County Youth Expo. It's held at the Orange County Fairgrounds down in Costa Mesa. We also, or at least I'm a judge at the Orange County Science and Engineering Fair, so I'll be down there for about 4 days of that week, judging the students, and it's a lot of fun. If anybody here is ever interested in judging, science fair exhibits. You're more than welcome to come. It's a fun thing to do. And then in April 17th, we have Professor Alan Fisk. He's from UCLA. He's the director of the Center for Culture, Brain, and Development, and he'll be talking on is divine will the only source of morality? And that, I'm hoping that everybody will come to that event. He's well recognized. He's an anthropologist. And then starting April 15th, of course, for those that have not seen Max Maven, he's a staunch supporter of ours. I really hope that people do come in here to catch the show. It's really a fun show. It's received a lot of good write-ups. And it starts April 15th. It runs every Friday and Saturday until I think May 20th or something like that. And of course, I would encourage everybody to become a friend of the Center of the Inquiry because you get with the membership card, you get some other benefits such as getting into all these events free. It gives you discounts on books and other events that we put on that may be more of a national as opposed to a local event. But anyways, aside from that, and I've always wanted to have somebody in here talk about Scientology, but unfortunately, it's been a lot of places shy away from it because Scientologists have a habit of trying to sue everybody for everything they can possibly do. They don't always win. They tend to lose a lot of cases or they get dismissed. But they do make the effort, and it can be costly especially on the part of the person being sued, to have these frivolous lawsuits over what can I say, in my opinion, nonsense. But I'll let everybody here judge for themselves what they think of Scientology. But anyways, we finally were able to contact Tory Christman. Now, she's been out of Scientology for approximately 4.5 years. She has a 30-year experience with them, so she brings with her a lot of insight and a lot of information about the organization that is generally not made known to the public. Now, I just want to warn everybody that, like with all of our talks, any hecklers will immediately be removed. In other words, be respectful, ask questions at the end of the talk, just what can I say? We know how to behave. I don't have to go any further on that. Anyways, Tory has been also featured in I think it was like 2 years ago or something like that, a big article, front page article in the LA's New Times magazine, which is no longer here. The only one left is LA Weekly. But it was a big front page article done by Tony Ortez, who's also one of our staunchest supporters. He's now, I believe, in Kansas. I'm not sure if he's still working for the New Times. He may be, but I just haven't talked to him for a while. So anyways, without taking away any more of Tory's time here, I'd like you to give a big hand to Tory.
All right. Thank you. Hello. My name is Tory Christman. I was in Scientology for 30 years. And as Vaughn said, I left 4.5 years ago, and I will tell you about that. I want to say a couple things before I get started. I used to come to meetings like this. In fact, I went to see Steve Allen. Scientology sent me there to find out if Steve Allen mentioned Scientology as a cult. And it just happened that time he was actually on something totally different. But they do send people to meetings like this. I've been to many of them while I was a Scientologist, and usually the intention is to either distract the speaker off of the subject or degrade the speaker, put them down, say things that make them look bad, etc. And Vaughn and I have agreed that's not going to happen here, and if anybody gets into that, we're going to ask you to leave. So he already mentioned it, but I just wanted to say that's where I come from, because I come from experience on it. I know they do it. We spoke last weekend, and they had people there saying, Tory broke her promises. And, and I'm like, I'm not a Scientologist, right? But, that's their trip. So anyway, I wanted to say that. Secondly, I want to say I do like most Scientologists. People ask me all the time, they know Scientologists who are good people. I say, I do too. I love my old friends. But because I woke up, because of people like you who are skeptics and critical thinkers, all of my friends can no longer speak with me. And my husband of 27 years divorced me. And that's pretty heavy, and I'll tell you more about that. But it's like, personally, I have many people that I love that are Scientologists, and they're not bad people. The people running Scientology are a different thing. And they do that's what helped me wake up also, because I started seeing some of their top secret things at the top, and it was like, whoa, this isn't what I got into Scientology for. So anyway, I wanted to make that clear. And the last thing is that these are from my own personal experiences for 30 years. So it is about Scientology, but it's from my experiences, okay? All right, and the last thing is I did have a little bit of a procedure on my face, so that's why if I look a little funny, that's from that. And I had a family emergency, so I'm trying to do the best I can, but please bear with me, okay? All right, great. So the first thing I wanted to do is explain to you, people ask me all the time, how'd you get into Scientology? How many people here, have any of you read Dianetics? Raise your hand. Okay, some people. Have any of you ever done Scientology courses? Okay, all right. Okay, so usually as one person, you learn a lot when you get out. And I spoke to some professors who had studied cults, and they said people don't join cults, cults find you. And that's exactly what happened with me. A little background on my history, I grew up in a really nice suburb north of Chicago called Park Ridge. Very happy, doing great. Grew into being a teenager, one of those people that got molested, so that really screwed me up. Then my dad was in the Hall of Fame, the Football Hall of Fame, for playing for the Chicago Cardinals. In the 60s, broadcast with Kurt Gowdy on NBC. We lived near O'Hare. A lot of the 747 started flying close to our house, and my mom and dad said, well, let's build our dream house. We'll move up to Lake Forest. Well, Lake Forest was like these super rich, super snotty people, and we lost all of our friends overnight, moved up there, and I remember I was raised a Catholic, and I remember this day to this day. I was walking in a church, and I saw all these pictures of these older ladies playing harps, and I thought, the idea of sitting around playing harps for the rest of eternity with a bunch of old bats is horrible, right? And then all my friends are going to go to hell anyway. I knew that. So I thought, party on! And that was, and I swear to God, all my parents' moral codes, that they taught me went down the drain. And I was like, fair game. I was just like having a great time, wild thing. And I was a crazy person, I admit it. And because I was at the top of this ladder of success, quote unquote, that people were working through in Park Ridge, and here are all these millionaires who are very unhappy and like, well, I've got my Jag outside, what are you driving? And I'm like, who gives a shit? Pardon me for those filming. I do have a little bit of a bad mouth. That's from Scientology. They all swear all the time. So they do. Truck drivers. Okay, so anyway, I've tried to whittle it down, but pardon me, if you have delicate ears, you better leave. But, but anyway, I forgot where I was. Where was I?
You were shouldering with the wealthy.
What is it?
You were shouldering with the wealthy.
That's right. Okay, so thank you. That's one of the things that happens to me. I talk about trees, I get up on the leaves, and I forget where I was. So just bear with me, and you can be my supporter on that. Remember the tree. Okay, so I'm in Lake Forest, I'm around the snotty people, and I'm like, this isn't happening, right? There must be something better. And that was the beginning of me kind of on my own personal quest of, there must be higher than what everybody else knows. There must be something better. Okay, so that happened. I'm on my little quest. I'm studying Eastern religions, which if any of you have read them, they sound good, but for me, they were very hard to apply. I'd get mad at somebody, I was like, I don't love this person. You know what I mean? I can't love him. I'm mad at him. Okay, so long story short, I go to college. I leave college. My parents are big on, you got to go to college. I'm like, I don't need it. I'm me. Just like now I tell kids all the time, get trained in something. Because I was one of those bozos who was like, oh, I know better than everybody else, right? So in and out of college, finally go to San Francisco, become a hippie, do some drugs, which of course Scientology always says, she's a drug addict now. Which that was like 1968 or something like that. But to them, that's right now. But anyway, I'll tell you that anyway, because I want to tell you any of the bad things they'll say about me so you understand. So that was in 68. I did some drugs as a hippie. And I still was looking for this person that I thought was it. And I went to a college. One of my college friends said, oh, you got to try heroin. It's the greatest thing. So I did it one time. I got hepatitis. My poor parents, who it had just been one thing after another. Tory's this, Tory's that. Now they've got to fly me back from San Francisco to Lake Forest. I'm in a Lake Forest hospital, and all these snotty people come in going, oh, what a shame, Tory Christman, you did drugs. You know, and I'm like, I hate these people. You know, I'm like Homer Simpson, you know, ah. But you know, I'm trying to be cool, and finally these two guys come in, and this is a true story. I mean, they're actually, this was the book they gave me. They're really nice, and they come in, they got their little Dianetics book on their shoulders, and they're like, wow, hi, you remember us from high school? And I'm thinking, yeah, you're the rich jerks that I don't like, right? But they were really nice. And my parents had a lot of money. It wasn't that I was against money. It was I was against the exclusive snottiness kind of stuff, which ended up being in Scientology at the top of their pyramid. But I didn't know that for 30 years. So a little slow on the draw. But anyway, they give me this book, and I finally say, well, what do you guys do? And they said, well, we're Scientologists. Now, have any of you seen the Dianetic commercial with the volcano exploding? That's how my head was. I was like, wow. You know, it was the one thing I had never heard of. And I go, Scientology, what's that? And they go, well, you know what? We'll leave you this Dianetics book. You can read it, you know, and you can have it. And I'm like, God, that's nice. So I'm reading it. I get better. My dad sends me back to college in Lake Forest, and I'm reading my Dianetics book, and we have a big argument. And he says, you know what, Tory? It's our morals or no school. Like either you're in bed at 10:30, and I'm like, Dad, I'm in college. You know, this guy's been running this trip on me forever. What time I gotta go to bed? And I said, I'm in college. I'm on a phone with them. And he goes, you know what? It's our morals or no school. So I pulled down my shade, I hung up on him, and I wrote with lipstick, your morals or no school, screw you. And I mean, my parents were great, but it was like, that's the line, that's the bottom line, I'm out of here. And I hitchhiked from Lake Forest, Illinois, to Los Angeles, to the American St. Hill. Now, I was a hippie at the time. I was against organizations, because people always say, well, I would never get into that. Well, I was a free speech advocate. I was against organizations. I was against the military. I'd been protesting against the Vietnam War for a long time. So when I walked in and saw these people in these Navy uniforms, right, and they're like, you know, organizational charts, and everybody's kind of marching around, and I'm like, I want to speak to this guy, right? My friend in Lake Forest said, ask for this guy. So I asked for him, and they said, you can't talk to him. He's on course. And I'm like, oh, great, he's on course. So I said, well, when can I talk to him? And they said, he'll call you at 10:30. So I hitchhiked back out into the valley. We were right around on Temple Street. I hitchhiked back to the valley, and I think, I'm with a guy, and we get stoned on grass, and I think, yeah, right, he's going to call us. Because when you do drugs, you never do anything. You always plan on doing all these things, and you never do them. So we're like rolling around on the floor laughing. And at 10:35, the phone rings. And we're both like, no way. And I pick up the phone, and I go, it's the guy. And he goes, come on. And so he says, yeah, I'll be out in about 20 minutes. And again, we think, yeah, right, he's going to drive all the way out to the valley. He does. The doorbell rings. He's there. Drives me back to American St. Hill, and we sit there, and I ask him, like, what about the big picture? Because they had a giant picture back then of Hubbard, and to me, it looked like Nazi Germany kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't think so. And he's like, yeah, I know, that's a little weird, and the Navy uniform's a little weird, but don't worry about it, the people are really great. And this was the crowning thing for me as far as being a critical thinker into not a critical thinker. He said, let's go talk to the auditors, which are their consultants, like a therapist kind of thing. And we stood there, and I listened to him talk, and I thought, you know, I don't care what these people do. I want to be an auditor. And that was the real changing point for me on, you know, looking at things, seeing what it is. And that's what happens to most people who get in Scientology. You kind of shut down a little bit, and it ends up where you shut down a lot.